pretty packed day today. So advanced. I'm going to briefly cover a new product from Warma and how it competes against Banner, some product information, where to find it, and some marketing material that was put together so you could take it to the customer pretty quickly. After that, Rico's going to talk a little bit about some intel he's getting in the field about Saginaw and some problems they're seeing and some possible opportunities for us in Ratal. Next would be IO Link. So George, Matt, Nathan, and John will talk about IO Link from a high level, and then also all the different products and services and solutions we can offer with our multiple partners on IO Link. And then closing us out today is the one and only Chris Bryant. We'll talk about his success that he's having on repairs and how he's gone about winning customers and just the methodology of starting the conversation and what he's done to be successful about that. And hopefully we can all take some of that away and continue to build our cross-selling numbers within SunSource. So with that, the Warma, Warma's new product probably looks very familiar to a lot of you. It's basically, I don't want to say a copy, but it's pretty darn close to the Banner offering, right? So there's a 55 and a 35 millimeter beacon, multicolor beacons that could either be touch or just illumination. And it's a pretty neat product. And you see these things used in a lot of different places within our customers and with our end users. These are designed to be drop-in replacements for the Banner unit. And I'll go through the PDF that was put together in a second. The contact here, Mike Moore, is our contact to Warma. And when we're talking about large volumes, you're probably going to need to get Mike involved to maybe get some pricing concessions. But we'll get into that in a second. So the marketing piece that was put together looks like this. It's pretty simple. I think it's about 6 pages. Kind of just goes through the different offering within the product family. Pretty simplistic product, right? I mean, it's either touch, non-touch, with buzzer, without buzzer. You can see some of the different applications here. And this just kind of goes through all the different options. So at the end of the call, I'll send all this information out to you guys so you can have it, and it'll be posted up to our sites as well. But pretty neat, pretty simple, just kind of one of these products that's easy to talk about at a customer. And then if you look at how does this look, so the Banner product is here on the left-hand side, right from their website. One thing, doing some investigation on this, did notice that the Banner list price is about $180 a piece. Warma list is about $206. We do have a nice cost position on this. It's only $107 our cost. So again, going back to any large applications, we may need to get the Warma rep involved and talk about price concessions or whatnot. In the middle, you can see from our website or web store, if you click on the data sheet based on the part numbers from the initial PDF, it pulls up a great comprehensive data sheet with all the information you would need for the product. So that's all being loaded to our web store. Products are in P21. We're ready to go sell this and compete against Banner. More importantly, especially for the guys with Barnum in our territory, Barnum is probably the largest Banner distributor. So as we know what Barnum's trying to do on the Fortress side of our business, we could probably try to maybe create some noise for them on the Banner side of their business. So just a thought. So with that, any questions or comments on this Warma product?
Amy, do you have any of those documents printed out that we can have in the Farmington Hills office?
I don't think we printed them yet, but we can definitely print them and have a stack of them in there.
Yeah, that'd be good for the blitz we've got coming up in a couple weeks.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know if the pinout's the same, that it is a direct swap?
It appears it is. I haven't gone that far to go pin to pin, but the whole cutout's the same. So the Warma's 5 millimeters larger, probably from a I don't know if there's a patent on it or whatnot, but it's a touch larger, but the cutout's exactly the same. We can investigate the pinout for sure. All right. Well, with that, I'll throw it over to Rico just to give us an update on what he's hearing about Saginaw.
Hey guys, good morning. We are in multiple states. We've been hearing some, I guess, bad news for Saginaw, hopefully good news for us. So in Florida, we've heard two things. One, the customer has told us they stop releasing purchase orders for any Saginaw enclosures. They're actually having weld, physical weld structure type welds breaking. They were having to put smoke inside panels to find for where there's leakage. So they said they're a longtime Saginaw user and have quit purchasing Saginaw immediately. The other one we heard is up here in Tennessee. The customer said the grounding studs are being welded on after powder coating, and they basically can snap the ground stud off by hand. So they're having to send cabinets back to get new ground studs welded on or new cabinets shipped in. The third thing we're hearing is that Saginaw is going modular, and it's a mess. I think for all the reasons we already know with Ratal, and why we have West Grove and Jacob Kidd to help us put assemblies together and take away that pain from the customer. Saginaw has nothing, so their customers are struggling online trying to figure out what parts and pieces to put together. So I think all these, we have great stories to tell. And obviously we can't publish anything, nothing's in writing, but we can always ask our customers, which what we've been doing is just saying, hey, we've been hearing some problems are happening, and basically we're here to help. So I think that's good news for all of us. Saginaw's it's amazing. They even feel like they're bigger in these other territories than they are in Michigan. So it's given us a window to start selling in. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thanks, Rico.
Yep.
All right. Next up, George, if you want to grab the screen.
Sure. Yeah. See my screen?
Certainly can. Yep.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So as you guys know, the real purpose behind this call is to give you guys little tidbits of things to go out and talk to your customers about, right? We're trying to keep this as quick hitters, little things, learn a little bit about some of our products or what we can offer. The goal here is not to do a deep dive. So my portion of today's presentation is a little bit of an overview as to who is Electro Matic with respect to IO-Link. So this is kind of where it starts, right? These are all the products that we have out here that do support IO-Link. So I want to do just a little introduction to remind or educate some people on the very, very basics of IO-Link. So the important things on this slide is the fact that IO-Link is a point-to-point interface. This is not a network. It's not like Profibus. It's not like Profinet. It's not like Ethernet IP. It is point-to-point. If I have a 4-channel IO-Link master, I can connect up 4 devices to it, right? They're all point-to-point. The other thing on this, as you can see, is the adoption from our customers. It is skyrocketing. Most of the customers that I go visit are talking about IO-Link. If you're not hearing it from your customers, bring it up. See where their stance is on it. A lot of people are looking at it. And one of the main reasons why is data. You can get a lot of data out of IO-Link.
Hi, this is Joey over at Lucky's Collision. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Hey, can you guys mute?
You left a message for me.
Thank you. Okay. So, when you think of IO-Link, this is an analogy that Siemens came up with. So think of IO-Link kind of like the USB interface for automation. So you think about, how does USB work? There's a uniform cable, right? We all know there's a couple of different USB cables just based on size, but you pick this USB cable, it'll plug into the same spot on everything. You plug that thing in, it's automatically identified by the PC. We get the same sort of stuff out of IO-Link. We can parameterize things just like you would on like a printer or a mouse. You know, I want to set my mouse speed. I can parameterize all of that, and I get diagnostics coming back. So same type of idea, point to point, kind of like USB. So just real simple analogy. Physical side of it, wiring. So first of all, IO-Link does have a length limitation of 20 meters. So we'll talk more about that in a minute, but two basic ways to do your connection. Stuff that's in the cabinet, IP20, that's what's on the right-hand side. It is a 3-wire standard unshielded cable. Hook it up to the screw terminals and away you go. For anything that's washdown, there's actually 2 versions of this, type A and type B. Don't have to be bogged down with what these types are, but what type B gives me is extra power. So if I'm driving solenoids or things that need extra power, they will be type B. This is just a very broad, basic idea of something to think about when we're talking to customers about how IO-Link can fit into their infrastructure. So what we've got here, I got a PLC on there. Obviously, we're Profinet on the Siemens end. Doesn't necessarily have to be, right? There's Ethernet IP supports a lot of the same stuff, and as we see as we go through, there are devices we have that will sit on Ethernet IP. But I've got my PLC, I've got my Profinet network. The dashed yellow line means that this is actually ProfiSafe, so safety PLC. So I can kind of mix and match. So I've got anything that's in the orange, those are all IO-Link devices. So I've got a stack light here that's going to be wired directly into a PLC IO-Link master module in the main rack, or I can distribute it. This example here is ET200SP. I can distribute it in IP20, or I can distribute it in IP6567. That's the ET200 Eco, right? So that's my block there. My little purple guy out over here, this guy over here, this is what we would call an IO-Link hub. Basically, it's an IO module that is connected to an IO-Link master. So it's just a different type of architecture. These are all just regular digital signals down here. These are not IO-Link devices. They're just standard digital signals that are going into this hub. The hub is collecting all of this, sending it up to the IO-Link master. The IO-Link master is sending this up to my PLC. That's kind of the way that would look. So there's a couple of new things on here that we'll see in the upcoming slides. But IO-Link safety. So this is starting to come up more and more. If you're not hearing about it, you will be. So we've got a safety IO-Link master here. So I've got some safety devices that are sitting out here. They are going to IO-Link safety into the master. And then I need to be sitting on a safety network, right? This all goes together. You need a safety PLC back here. I need my safety network, my safety IO-Link master, and then my safety devices. So we've got safety now that we can consider. And then what's over here on the end, this is brand new, and this is just starting to hit the market, is IO-Link wireless. So here we've got, and you'll see Hilscher has an IO-Link wireless master module, and I've got IO-Link wireless devices that are starting to hit the market. So you can see there's kind of a broad range of things here that we can contend with if we want to. So now I'm going to kind of run through the product stuff. So as I'm going through here, I've got John and Matt and Nathan all on this call. So if there's questions or concerns about anything that I can't answer, if those guys are here to back me up on it. So just kind of run down through this stuff. So the first, we're going to hit a bunch of the Siemens products. So Siemens Masters. Essentially, basically every IO family we have has a master. That's kind of what this slide here is showing. So the PLCs, IP20, IP65. This slide here is also showing that we do have certain masters that do support Ethernet IP and Modbus TCP. Right? So if we're sitting in a Rockwell environment or kind of this agnostic environment, we can still do IO-Link with one of our interface modules. So there's my masters on the Siemens end. Okay, now I'm going to hit just a bunch of just seemingly random products, but remember, these are all things that just kind of get your brain moving a little bit. I don't want to go into detail on it, but we've got an RFID reader that sits on IO-Link. So it fits into the RF200 RFID family. If you know what that is, that's great. If you don't, we can talk about this at another time. but I've got an RFID module here that sits on IO link. Then we've got some IO modules or hubs. So this is like I had talked about a minute ago. So they will all connect back to an IO link master. Does not have to be a washdown one. This could be in cabinet. It doesn't really matter. But these guys all sit on IO link. They go back to the master. The master sits on whatever the bus is. So if the bus happens to be Profinet, that's what the green is at the top. Could be Ethernet IP if we have the appropriate master up here. This hub doesn't care. All it cares is that it's IO link. Got this guy on the right over here, this electronics module. This actually snaps on the back of a Siemens push button. So you see these clips on the bottom down here. This goes the same place a contact block would go. All it is just an IO card. So I've got inputs and outputs on this thing. You could put it into one of these little boxes if you wanted, or you can put it on the back of a push button. Starters. So there is a family of direct and reversing starters that directly sit on IO link. So these guys here, I can have up to 4 IO link starters daisy chained together per channel or per port. And if you see on the front here, there's this little ribbon cable. This is what is interconnecting these devices together. So why do I want something like this? Is I want data. Everybody wants more data. What is happening with my system? So we don't want to, a lot of customers are trying to move away from sending somebody out to open up a control cabinet to find out what the problem is. We want it reported on an HMI. This is what this is giving me. So brand new design, this is where I'd like to go for more data. The right-hand side is a function module here that goes on the front of one of the contactors. Gives me similar information as this one on the left, but this is kind of more like your retrofit idea. And you can see connectors on the front here. This is where the ribbon cable goes. So again, I can connect up to 4 of these together. Power supply. So now we have a power supply that sits on IO link. So again, why do I want this? Data. I want to know what is the voltage of that power supply. I want to know what the amperage is. I want to know what the status of this is. So I can get all that information off of this device back to IO link. Monitoring relays. So I want to monitor voltage, current, power factor, speed, temperature, those types of things. I can get that data and push it back on IO link. Of course, previously we've had things that would feed this data back, but probably an analog signal. So these devices are going to give me more data packed into that one cable. Signal column. So Nick talked about the Verma products. So as probably most of you know, the Siemens signal column, this stack light here, is rebranded Verma. So everything that you know about the Verma stack light is 100% the same with this device right here. But it does sit on IO link. This thing is 100% programmable. All of these little segments here, I can do whatever I want with them. I can combine them together and make these bottom 3 right here be a solid green block. I can make it flash. I can make it rotate. I can take this whole stack light here and I can make the whole thing blank. And I can start turning on lights from the bottom to kind of indicate maybe a fill, or maybe start from the top and move your way down. And it's like a countdown. So it doesn't have to be used as an indicator of trouble or something good happening in the process. We can use this in other ways. We could be a little bit creative. I like the idea of using this as a fill rate for something. I also like using it as a countdown timer. So we fill the whole thing up, and maybe there's a process that takes 3 minutes. Rather than having a readout somewhere, you can glance up at this thing and watch this thing go down. Again, more data. I have more control over this thing on IO link. My RFID key switch on the right over here. So a lot of people have seen this. We have this in our IO link workshop. But essentially what this is these little wands. These are RFID keys. And you plug them into the receiver over here. This is wired back to the PLC. Every one of these keys has a unique identifier. It has a serial number, or Siemens likes to call them license plates. With that data in the PLC, I will know which key is plugged in, and I can now do some user authorization. We have a lot of pre-built blocks to do different things with this. I can do it by color, or I can do it by an individual user. So just more uses here. How do we integrate this stuff? So on the Siemens end, everything's already built in. So if you're using TIA Portal, which obviously that's where we push all our customers, everyone's moved this way. There's a tool built in called the PCT. This is what configures the IO-Link master. That's where the magic starts. Every single IO-Link master has to be configured in some way. Now, there are some devices you can use as automatic, but a lot of customers want to go in, they want to do something extra with this thing. So we configure it in the master and we download it. We can also use Proneta, which this is a free tool, and I can get some basic diagnostics out of this. And we could use this in a panel shop situation where I've got things wired up and I want to just test and make sure, is the IO-Link device even working? Not necessarily am I getting the data I want, but am I getting something? I can use this. Siemens also gave us a bunch of pre-built blocks. So these blocks are doing lots of stuff. To me, one of the important ones is I can back up and restore the IO-Link master. So that I have my separate configuration software. If the IO-Link master fails, you either need to have code in your PLC using one of these blocks to do a backup and restore, or you need to bring out the config tool and reconfigure it. We can also read and write what Siemens calls device objects. This is like extra data. It's like stuff that's not a part of the normal cyclic read and write. So I can do that. How do I do this on the Rockwell side? Similar story. So on the Siemens end, we do have, these are the two IO-Link masters we have that are multi-protocol. So they sit on Rockwell. We can also do Siemens. It has its own configuration tool. So the multi-field bus configuration tool, this is what configures that master. Siemens also wrote, like they're starting to do for most of the devices, is they wrote some add-on instructions, right? These are like the function blocks for a Rockwell PLC. Similar story as on the Siemens end. I've got a master block to do a backup and restore, and then I have a device block over here that I could do read and write of that extra data that I can dig out of these devices. So these are already pre-built. They're on the website. They're free to download. All right, switching over to Data Logic. So Data Logic also has a bunch of IO-Link devices. So I'm not going to go into detail on them, but you can see we've got some optical sensors here. We've got some capacitive ones here. So this is like my proximity switch type stuff. And then we have some ultrasonic ones down here. All of these devices are sitting on IO-Link. Right, so we're going to pair these with an IO-Link master, one of these for every single one of the channels or ports, or however you want to call that. And then kind of continuing along, we've got another, this is more of a long range optical sensor. We've got some tubular ones here in the middle, and then we have some area scanners down here. So these ones are not safety. This is just like an area scanner is what this is. Now, moving on to Turk. So Turk has a couple of things that play in this space. So here's my IO-Link master for Turk. Similar as the Siemens end, except for this one here is, well, I guess the Siemens one was multi-protocol. So this guy here is multi-protocol. He is IP69K, so he's washed down. Similar on the Siemens end, right? But this is a great situation where either maybe we can't get the pricing we need, which I will say that in the past, I'm going to make a general statement here. In the past, we have always felt that the Siemens IO-Link master pricing was way out of whack with the market. They have fixed that problem. If you are working on an IO-Link project and you're getting standard pricing, Siemens is still offering the special pricing for anything that has the multi-protocol interface module. So that's all the washdown IO is multi-protocol. So there is special pricing for that. We just have to request it. So here's the IP20 version of this. So this guy sits in the box. So I've got 4 IO-Link channels on this one. Nathan reminded me yesterday that it's not in the slide deck, but we also have an IO-Link hub from Turk as well. So that's the one where it sits as an IO-Link device to a master. These are kind of interesting here. So the length of IO-Link, 20 meters is my limitation. Well, what happens if I need to go further? So Turk does make IO-Link repeaters. And to me, the interesting thing about this one right here, this bullet point, no IODD and no additional power supply. Okay, so IODD is the description file that the software needs. What this means is that there's no code. The PLC doesn't even know that this repeater is here. You basically put it in. Well, not basically, you do just put it in and it extends the length. So if you have a customer that needs to go further than 20 meters, this is the solution. And this is brand agnostic. You can hook you can put this in any IO link setup. All right, switching over to Hilscher. So Hilscher has two products that are out. So the first one here, this is what we would really consider IO link to cloud. So this is not going to a PLC, right? This is I'm taking my IO link channels and we're pushing them directly to some cloud server. So we're starting to see more customers that want to take data from the field and push it directly up to some cloud source. So that would be this side. This side over here, this right here, and this is this other new product. Now this says coming soon. This is shipping in Europe. Hilscher is waiting on the UL stamp for the US. So that it should be coming in the next month. But this is the wireless version. So you can see I've got my antennas on the front. And the cool thing about this one is 16 IO link wireless devices. So that's quite a few for this one device right here. So rather than running my wires all around, I can just go wireless if I want to. Now, there are very few wireless IO link sensors or devices out on the market. So they've also released this IO link wireless bridge. And what this does is you connect this, the one end connects to the sensor, the other end, you just power it with 24 volts. And there's a little pairing button on the front right here. And this is what pairs it with the master. So we can go into, kind of a brownfield installation, and we can put our IO-Link wireless master out there and add sensors wherever we want and just add this little bridge in. So this is a great retrofit type idea. So if you guys kind of remember, this is where Hilscher really makes their money. They make their money on brownfield retrofits. I want to add something to my facility. How do I do that? This is one way to do it without adding a lot of cost.
Hey, George, does the bridge connect regular sensors or IO-Link sensors?
Regular sensors.
Okay.
Just take a regular old photo eye or prox, plug this thing into the back of it, give it 24 volts, pair it with the master, you're good to go. Okay, so now switching over to pills. So this is one of the new products here, and this is very close to coming out. So this is the IO-Link safety master module. So this is the thing we've been hearing more and more about. So this is the only safety master that we have as a company, but this is going to give you the ability to start taking your IO-Link safety devices, get them into this master, and then get this master up to the PLC. Pills also has a couple of safety IO-Link devices. So I've got a safety light curtain here on the left, and then I have some safety push button on the left over here. So you can see these kind of look like Fortress T-Guard is what they kind of look like. So these guys here, they can all wire back to that safety master, send it up to the PLC. And then our last one here is Fortress Interlocks. So this is also on the cusp of releasing. So what this is, everyone can recognize, this is Fortress T-Guard. And what they're giving us is an option. There's basically three versions of this guy. So starting at the bottom, IO-Link standard, right? Just regular IO-Link, no e-stop button, no guard switches. This is just a button stack sitting on IO-Link, no problem. Then we've got IO-Link safety, and I've got with and without high-level coding. What high-level coding gives me is this guy down on the bottom over here. This is like a redundant safety sensor. So depending on the safety category that we need, maybe we can get away with just one of these, but if I need a higher safety category, we're going to add this high-level coding. So that's kind of the product overview. The one last thing I want to share with everybody really quick is we have worked with marketing to create this one-page flyer. So this is extremely simple, right? And the whole goal here is for you to take this and start a conversation with a customer. So you can see it's laid out very similar to the way our PowerPoint was. So I've got my architecture at the top. This gives you your talking points. And then just a brief idea of product-wise, what do we have? Siemens has a bunch of masters. We got a bunch of devices, obviously tying in the Siemens software, tying in the Rockwell software. What does DataLogic have? What does Turk have? What does Hilscher have? What does Pills have? And what does Fortress have? So the idea here is I can take this, it's one sheet of paper, front and back, very high level. The intent here is to get a discussion going with a customer. So that's what I got. Any questions or comments?
This is
That
fantastic.
marketing page is great.
Yeah.
Can we make sure that gets emailed out today?
Yep, not a problem. Yeah, the other thing that I will tell you guys in general, we're working behind the scenes and we're a couple of months out on launching. We're going to have a central collection point for all of this information. So this is actually the main reason why Amy's recording this call. So that way, if you can't make this meeting or you want to go back and reference something, all of that will be up in a central location. Think of it kind of like the Electro Matic DRC. So we're trying to put this all in one place. So I will get this emailed out, but eventually it'll be posted there as well.
A few of these items were marked coming soon. When we send this out, can you include estimated availability dates?
Sure. Yeah, not a problem.
And then with
I can say on the Fortress and the Pilts ones, everybody is waiting for that Pilts Master to come out. So because there are no IO-Link safety masters in the field right now. Supposedly Phoenix is coming out with one, but the Pilts one, I've been told, should have been released already, but they're looking at maybe summertime, which means all the rest of them are going to be summertime.
Sure. And then with the IO-Link wireless bridge, you said the wireless bridge would allow for non-IO-Link sensors to communicate, but does it also work with IO-Link sensors?
It would work. Yes, it would have to be. It would have to be wireless. It would have to be a wireless IO-Link sensor to work with that.
So you couldn't use a standard IO-Link sensor with the wireless bridge and then have it be just like it's hardwired to an IO-Link master. That's not the case.
Right. So you need three parts. If you have a standard sensor, there's two things you need to buy. You have to buy a bridge to make that standard sensor wireless. Then you have to buy the IO-Link master, the wireless IO-Link master to connect.
Yeah. And then it's just discrete signal, just on off, no IO-Link data.
Correct, because that device can't bring anything, right? It's got nothing else to bring to the table. So
yep. So then, and so the next scenario is an IO-Link standard sensor that cannot hook up to the IO-Link wireless bridge and act as an IO-Link sensor still.
correct.
You only get discrete out of it. Even though it's an IO-Link sensor, you only get discrete out of it still through the bridge.
That's a good question. I guess I don't know the answer to that. I'll take a note and see if I can, I'll get an answer to that one. That one I don't know. So we've got IO-Link sensor connected to the bridge. And would that transmit IO-Link data back to the wireless master? Yeah, I'll check on that.
Yeah, because I see this being a use case, right? So if they used to use an IO-Link sensor, so now they're like, oh, you have a wireless option, but now it brings the sensor back down to a discrete non-IO-Link sensor, and you kind of lose the value of the IO-Link. So
For sure. Yeah. Is this Carter? Who's asking this question?
This is Tyler Hop.
Tyler. Okay. Tyler, we have not met yet.
No.
Okay. Got it. Yep. I'll find an answer to that.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, I guess if there's no other questions, I will turn it over to Mr. Bryant.
All right. Thanks, George. I'll be quick. Good morning, everybody. So I just want to talk about a couple end user examples of cross-selling, getting in to some Allen Bradley accounts and turning over some repair dollars. So first one's Mosaic down here. They got about 31 plants. They're an Allen Bradley legacy end user. They do use Siemens on their turbines, so that's kind of how I got in originally, supporting them on the MRO business, on their MRO business. And then started working with the maintenance team, and I made a joint sales call with Tony Rogers, who's down here, and we talked about how we can support some of their Allen Bradley legacy installations. So we got a lunch and learn with their whole maintenance department. I just wanted to focus on just the guys on the floor dealing with failures day in, day out. Like I said, they have 31 plants down here. So we brought in some guys from multiple locations, and we were able to do a lunch and learn with about 30 guys. went through our service and repair brochure. It was very dry. We didn't think we had, we thought we had lost the audience at one point, but basically they handed us 2 Allen Bradley PLC 5 IO cards and said, here you go, try this out. We repaired them. It was much cheaper for them to give us those IO cards than just throw them away and buy them off eBay. So basically what that led to was just a milk run for me. So now I go in there basically every week to 2 weeks. They hand me a box of PLC 5 IO cards, Slick 500 IO cards that they were going to throw away. I told them not to throw them away, give them to me. I'll handle all the logistics. And basically it's just run rate, repair business. It's, maybe 30 grand this year. It's not a whole lot of dollars, but it keeps me in front of them, gets me in the door, right? So, and what it's doing, then we had a show down here, and they said they have 31 plants, so we had some other guys from some other plants come to the show, and they had heard what we were doing, so now we're in at multiple sites now doing the same thing. So just kind of doing a milk run, showing up in the in the maintenance department with a box of donuts and walking out with old Allen Bradley PLC 5 cards. And then the other one that I think is important to note, because we see these all over industry, is Niagara Water. I was down at the Miami plant, and again, joint sales call with Tony Rogers. Went to the tool crib, talked about where their pain points were, and basically they had a box of 6 scanners. So on their AGV, these guys are moving around pallets of water bottles all day, so they have a ton of AGVs, LGVs that they have typically in industry. From what you see, SICK kind of owns the area scanners on the back of these. There's a high failure rate with those. They were sending them back to SICK to get repaired. I think they're the S300 and S3000 scanners for SICK. K&S, I took a box of them out of the plant, sent them up to K&S. They came back. Originally, we were about 5% high with our 25% markup. So I went back to SunSource and said, hey, we need 10 to 15% off this, and we can win this run rate business. Tony went back, fought for us. K&S came back with a better number, and now we're getting those scanners. So we just got our first order of 6, and those are about 1,800 a piece repair, and basically just making a milk run. Once a month I'll go in there and grab 5 to 10. They said that their failure rate's about 5 to 10 a month, because they just like I said, their whole corporation standardized on SICK area scanners. So we have 3 locations now. So I was just with the Jacksonville guys yesterday having lunch, and got an opportunity for a couple more. So that's just a couple successes we had. The key was bringing Tony in to talk about everything they do, right? I mean, I don't know everything that SunSource can repair. There's a lot of things they can't repair, but 80% of the stuff that I'm walking by every day, we probably have a repair solution for. And it's, if I always open up with, how are you managing your spares? And if they say we're not, we're throwing it away, then I have a compelling reason to add value. So that's it.
Hey, Chris, I wanted to piggyback that. Thanks for the information. I know some of you have already gone out with Tony Rogers, but going to start looking at ensuring everybody gets some time with Tony. He's a great resource, not only for service and repair, but for SunSource as a whole. He's been around for a long time. He's able to identify opportunities, really great to work with. That's why Chris has been able to have so much success. So working through that, and then also on the margin side with cross-selling, we're going to have more flexibility with some lower than desired margins on cross-selling. We've got to start getting some victories here. Success breeds success, and we haven't had a lot of that. So appreciate everything Chris has been doing, but don't hesitate to bring opportunities to myself or your manager for cross-selling if you think it's a little lower than on the margin side than we typically go in at. So I want to make sure everybody was aware that we're trying to look at any and all cross-selling opportunities.
All right, great. Well, I think that wraps it up for this month. So again, appreciate everyone's time, and we'll be back together in March. Have a great day.
Thanks, Nick.